तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन रूपकथान्यं स्वपदान्तकं वन्दे हम श्री गुरु श्रीपतिकमलं श्री गुरुं वैष्णवश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सागना रघुनाथान्वितं सजीवं साधुं साधुतं परिजनं सहितं श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य श्री राधा कृष्ण पादां सागना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितंश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतवे श्रीमते जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण। Sukhdev Goswami.
Sukhdev Goswami says that pure devotional service one can solve the problems of life. Who can do this? It is not possible for an ordinary man, but for those who are Vasudeva Parayana, devoted to Lord Krishna, Vasudeva. Only those whose concern is to satisfy Krishna and who take to pure unalloyed devotional service can solve the problems of life. Agam Dhunvanti, as already explained, problems are created by sinful activities. Although there is enough food, everyone stocks more than is needed in order to make a profit or simply in order to hoard. In 1942 in India, there was an artificial famine created by people gathering money and stocking it unnecessarily. Wealthy men collected rice which was selling at 6 rupees a pound, and suddenly within a week the price rose to 50 rupees a pound. Consequently, no rice was available on the market, and the people went hungry. An American gentleman present at the time remarked, "People in our country were starving in this way, there would have been a revolution." The people in India, however, are so trained and cultured, in spite of this artificial famine, they did not revolt but preferred to die peacefully. Of course, this is only one instance, but it shows how problems are not created by God but by man. In Germany, during the First World War, the women went to church and prayed to God to send their husbands, sons, and brothers back safely, but none of them came back. All of the women became atheists. They did not consider that God did not advocate the war and its problems. They went to Him for a solution. When we create our own problems, we have to suffer the results.
This is OBA number 6 also. When we create our own problems, we have to suffer the result. OBA number 6. However, that the problems of one who takes care of Sacred Krishna, God, is solved. So this one has to explain.
It is a fact, however, that problems of one who takes to the shelter of Krishna, God, are solved. For this reason, if for none other, one should apply his devotional service to Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitah. If one engages in devotional service to Vasudeva, he will receive the highest knowledge without delay. Janayati Asu Vairagyam. The words Gyan Vairagyam refer to that knowledge by which one becomes detached from material allurement. The word Gyan means knowledge, and Vairagyam means detachment. Both knowledge and detachment are required in this human form of life. One should know, I am spirit soul. I have nothing to do with this material world, but because I have a desire to enjoy it in different ways, I am transmigrating from one body to another. I do not know where this began, but it is still going on. This is real knowledge. To be knowledgeable, one must understand his constitutional position and realize how he is suffering in this material world. That perfection of knowledge comes when one becomes Vasudeva Parayana, devoted to Lord Vasudeva. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanvan Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvam Iti Samahatma Sudurlabha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Bhagavad Gita 7.19. Those great souls who know perfectly well that Krishna.
Before that,
Vasudeva-
there was CBA question also, where I am a spirit soul. Before the paragraph, Bhavanam Janamnamante. I am the spirit soul. I have nothing to do with this material world. What do you mean? So how, question number 44. What is the reason for transmigration of soul from one body to another? Having a desire to enjoy in different ways.
Those
Yes,
great souls.
Yeah. continue.
Those great souls who know perfectly well that Krishna, Vasudeva is the source of everything are very rare. It is easy to find so-called Mahatmas, great souls with long beards and mustaches, who tell everyone that they are one with God and that when they die, they will wake up and become gods. But these are not really Mahatmas. Rather, they are Duratma, hard-hearted, because they want to encroach on the rightful position of Krishna and become one with him. If there were a servant in the office who tried to occupy the position of an employer, would the employer like it? Similarly, any living entity who is trying to become God is not very much to God's liking. Of course, no one can become God, but this endeavor to become God or his competitor is not very pleasing to him. Persons who try are described in Bhagavad Gita as Dushatah, envious. The Lord says, Tamaham Dushatah Prugran, Samsareshu Naradhaman, Shipami Ajastrum Asubhan, Asurisweva Yonishu. Envious, mischievous, the lowest of mankind, these do I ever put back into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Bhagavad Gita 16.19.
Envious here also means the Mayavadis, as Prabhupada was explaining earlier. They also go to the hell and different, and they take some different animal body. They are given some different animal bodies. Lowest of mankind, Naradhama, 715. I think so those where it is talked about them also.
They are put into hellish conditions because they are envious of God's position. First, they try to occupy high position in this material world, and when they are frustrated in this attempt, they think, now I shall occupy the position of God. Of course, this desire is also frustrated because no one can become God. God is God, and the living entity is the living entity. God is supreme and infinite. We are infinitesimal. Our position is to serve God, and when we act according to our position, we become happy. By imitating God, happiness cannot be obtained. Yassai kanishwasita kalam athavalambya jivanti loma vilaja jagadandanathah. Brahma Samhita 5.48. There are innumerable universes, and within one breath of the Mahavishnu, these universes are inhaled and dissolved within his body. How then can a living entity become God? God is not so cheap. Therefore, we must become advanced in knowledge and accept Vasudeva, Krishna as the supreme. There is no question of Krishna being a man. At no stage in his appearance on earth did he appear as an ordinary living entity. Even as a baby, he performed miraculous feats way beyond the abilities of the ordinary living entity. One should not consider that when he is surrendering to Krishna, he is surrendering to an ordinary man, but to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Indeed, that is confirmed by all Vedic literatures. Agham Dhunvanti, all reactions to sinful activities are cancelled when one surrenders to Krishna.
This is the CBA, 45.
Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna advises personal surrender to him. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam saranam raja aham tam sarva papebhyo mokshaishyami masitah. Give up all varieties of religiousness and just surrender unto me, and in return I shall protect you from all sinful reactions. Therefore, you have nothing to fear. Bhagavad Gita 18.6. Therefore, one who is a devotee, Vasudeva Parayanaha, and who simply engages in devotional service is immediately freed from all sinful activities. Devotional service to Krishna or Krishna consciousness can never be attained by any amount of speculation, but by the cautious mercy of a pure devotee of Krishna. It is a matchless gift bestowed by the Mahatma or a great soul out of compassion for fallen living entities. It is said that by the grace of Krishna one gets a guru or a spiritual master, and by the grace of the spiritual master one gets Krishna. This is like the gift of the sunrise. At night there is darkness, but in the morning, as soon as the sun rises, immediately millions of miles of darkness are removed. In the same way, if we try to make the sun of Krishna rise within our hearts, all of our problems will be solved.
Next chapter.
Chapter number 7.
Liberation in Krishna consciousness. If we simply worship the original person, Adi Purusam, we need not fear being misled by anyone. Sridhar Swami, the original commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam, explains that one can reach the perfection of life simply by devotional service. Kevalya Bhaktya. One need not be dependent on any other process. Sukhdev Goswami says that one can put an end to material life by one stroke. Kevalya. There is no need to first undergo severe penance and austerity, practice celibacy, control the mind and senses, give in charity, perform great sacrifices, and become very truthful and clean.
Why it is written that no need to undergo severe penance, austerity, practice celibacy. It means that when one will perform Kevala Bhakti, these things will automatically come. Celibacy, control the mind, senses, giving the charity, the quality of giving charity, performing great sacrifices, Kirtanam and all those things are sacrifice itself. Being truthful and clean. These things will automatically come. It does not mean that one should not become truthful and clean. And just one will be untruthful and will be performing bhakti and they will go. No, it's not like this. When one will perform Kevala Bhakti, these things will automatically come. One need not to first undergo and then perform bhakti. No. Even though one is not completely free of sins or whatever, one can start the process. Automatically these things will occur. Automatically. So one need not to individually for each and every single activities, one has to do endeavors, and when one achieves all those results and then performs bhakti. No, it's not like that. Okay.
Simply by one stroke. By accepting Krishna consciousness, one immediately rises to the highest position. By just taking to Krishna consciousness, one develops all transcendental qualifications. The goldsmith uses a small hammer and taps the gold many times, but the blacksmith uses a large hammer, and with one stroke, his job is finished. This is the blacksmith's method. We take the big hammer of Bhakti Yoga and finish all material life. There is no need to undergo the many lesser disciplines, nor to follow any other process. In actuality, there is no possibility of even following the other Vedic process to perfection. For instance, the Hatha Yoga process would say, you have to become a strict brahmachari and sit in the forest with your body at a right angle to the ground, pressing your nose with your finger for 6 months. Who could follow such an instruction? Since such a method is not practical in this present age, the goldsmith method has to be discarded. The solution is to take the blacksmith's hammer of Krishna consciousness and finish off all sinful reactions immediately. By devotional service, one has to become Vasudeva Parayana, a devotee of Lord Vasudeva or Lord Krishna. In other words, we have to learn how to become lovers of Vasudeva. If the world takes up this Krishna consciousness, the planet is certain to be peaceful. Now the earth is quickly becoming a hellish planet, and if this Krishna consciousness is not taken up, this hellish condition will progress despite all advances in education and economic development. Therefore, those who are thoughtful should take this movement very seriously and try to understand its value. It is not something manufactured by one man or a group of disciples. It is authoritative and age-old, based on the Vedic literatures which date back thousands of years. Niharam iva bhaskara. Bhaskara refers to the sun. The sun immediately dissipates mist or fog as well as darkness. As stated before, we should try to make the sun of Krishna rise within our hearts. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita also it is stated that Krishna is like the sun and that Maya, The illusory energy is darkness. Yahan Krishna taha nahi mayar adhikar. As soon as the sun of Krishna is present, the darkness of Maya immediately disappears. Without following this process, it is very difficult to overcome the ocean of darkness, Maya. If we simply teach people to surrender to Krishna, God, all the fog and mist of illusion will disappear. The method is very simple. Chant.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
The more one goes on chanting, the more the darkness of many lives are dissipated. Cheto Darpanamarjanam. By chanting, one can cleanse the dust from the mirror of his mind and perceive things very distinctly. Thus, one will know what he is, what God is, what this world is, what our relationship with God is in this world is, how to live in this world, and what our next life is. Such knowledge is not taught in schools, where one is taught how to manufacture or acquire products for self gratification. There is always a hard struggle going on involving man's attempt to dominate material nature. However, for every convenience he manages to produce, there is an inconvenience accompanying it. For example, recently some engineers designed an airplane which can fly at great speeds without danger. When the plane flies, however, it breaks windows all over the city. Our our time is thus being wasted in constructing so many devices which give us temporary and artificial convenience at the price of a proportionate amount of inconvenience. This is all part of the law of karma, the law of action and reaction. For whatever we do, there must be reaction by which we become entangled. That is stated in Bhagavad Gita. Yajnathat karmano anyatra loko ayam karma bandhana tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work binds one to this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction. And in that way, you will always remain unattached and free from bondage.
47 CBA, this 46, sorry, already done. This came earlier also. Yeah. Continue.
When one acts for sense gratification, work entangles him, whether the work be good or bad. But if one works for Krishna, Yajnathat karmano, he will be free regardless of the possible desirability of his work. Not only does Sukadeva Goswami recommended unalloyed devotional service, but he further says that by devotional service, one's sinful activities will be negated. Every one of us is more or less sinful. For if we were not sinful, we would not have been put into material bodies. As soon as one is free from sinful life, he is liberated and transferred to the spiritual world in a spiritual body. The whole process is to cleanse oneself from the contamination of sinful or material life. Sukadeva Goswami said, my dear king, those who are sinful can become purified from contamination by tapa adibhi, practicing austerity. Sukadeva also said, however, that no one can become completely purified by executing this process of austerity. There are many examples of yogis who practiced austerities but did not emerge completely pure. Vishwamitra Muni, for example, was a Kshatriya who wanted to become a Brahmana and therefore began to practice austerity. Later on, however, he became a victim of Menka, a society girl of the heavenly planets. Because Vishwamitra was not pure, he became entangled with her and begot a child. Therefore, it is said that even if one performs austerities and penances, worldly circumstances are so implicating that somehow or other they will involve one again and again in the material modes of nature. There are many examples of sannyasis who give up the world, renouncing it as false, saying, let me turn to Brahman. But they again would but they again become entangled in the work of the world when they set up hospitals and perform philanthropic work and welfare activities. If the world is false, why are they attracted to welfare activities? The philosophy of Krishna consciousness maintains that this world is not false, but that it is temporary. God created this world, and He is true. So, how can His creation be false?
See, the question, why this material world is not false, 47.
Because this is the creation of God, and God is the absolute truth. This creation is also true. We simply see it otherwise due to illusion. The world is a fact, but it is a temporary fact. A person may claim something within this world to be his property, but that is a false claim. It is a fact that it is someone's property, but it is God's property. Isha vasyam idam sarvam. This does not mean, however, that the property is false. What is false is the claim to the property, which is based upon a puffed up false consciousness that the individual is the proprietor, the master, or God. Everyone desires to be master or proprietor of something, then minister, then president, and then God. When everything else fails, the living entity wants to become God. The tendency is there to want to become the greatest of all, but the fact remains that God is the greatest and the living entity is small compared to Him. The smallest is not false, and the greatest is not false. But when the small thinks that he is great, that is false. We understand from Vedic literature that Brahman or the spirit is Anor Aniyamsam, Niyamsam, smaller than an atom, and Mahato Mahiyamsam, greater than the greatest. As far as we can conceive, the space which contains the universe is the greatest, but Krishna has shown millions of universes in his mouth. The greatness of God cannot be comprehended by the living entities who are part and parcel of God. As living entities, we are very minute, infinitesimal, and God is infinite. Indeed, the magnitude of the individual spirit soul is so microscopic that it cannot be seen. One cannot even imagine it with his material senses. Therefore, it is said that the spirit soul is smaller than an atom. Anor Aniyamsam. Since the living entities and Krishna, the Supreme Lord, are both spirit, they are qualitatively one. Quantitatively, however, the Lord is great and the living entities are small. This fact can be accepted immediately on the basis of Vedic information. In Brahma Samhita, it is stated, Yasyaikan Yasvasita Kalam Athavalam Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadandanatha. Many millions of universes come out of God's body when He exhales, and they again disappears when He inhales. Simply by His breathing, millions of universes are created and dissolved. If this is the case, then how can the living entities claim proprietorship over anything? One's position is safe only in so far as he does not falsely declare him to be God or proprietor. It has become fashionable to claim to be God, and fools accept such claims. But from the Vedic literatures, we understand that God is not so cheap. As long as we are not making puffed up ego-centered claims, we are already liberated. There is no need to actually seek liberation. But as long as one thinks, I am this body, he is not liberated. Liberation means knowing perfectly well that one's self is separate from the body. Therefore, Sukadeva Goswami said, Prayashchittam Vimarsanam. Develop your knowledge that will give you relief. Our knowledge is perfect when we come to know that we are very small particles of spiritual sparks and that God, the Supreme, the greatest spiritual identity, supplies all our necessities. Eko Bahunam Yovidadhati Kaman. By knowing ourselves as minute particles, part and parcel of God, we can understand that our duty is to serve God. God is the center of all creation, of the whole universal body. He is the enjoyer and we are his servitors. As this conception becomes clear, we become liberated. Liberation entails freedom from all false conceptions. It is not that upon liberation one acquires 10 hands. In Srimad Bhagavatam, liberation is defined as mukti hitvan yatha rupam. Mukti means to give up, and anyatha rupam denotes a false conception of life. This is to say that when one is situated in his original constitutional position, having given up all false notions, he is liberated. It is also said in Srimad Bhagavatam that by the acquisition of knowledge, one becomes liberated immediately. That knowledge can be very easily acquired, for it is simple. God is great and I am very small. He is the supreme proprietor supplying all necessities, and I am his servant. Who can challenge this? It is a fact. We are simply under the false impression that we are this or that, and this leads us to the ultimate false impression that we are God. Yet we do not consider what manner of God we are. A small bodily disorder will send us to the physician. One who claims to be the supreme, therefore, should be understood to have fallen in the last snare of Maya.
This is really a question number. How do you-
One who is thus fallen cannot be liberated, for he is bound by false impressions. Only when one has attained proper knowledge can he actually be liberated. The stage of liberation is also called the Brahma Bhuta stage. One who has attained this stage is characterized by Sri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita in this way. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Nasochadina Kankshati Samah Sarveshu Bhuteshu. One who is transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity, and in that state, he achieves pure devotional service unto me. The joy which follows realization arises from understanding. I was illusioned by false notions for so long. What a fool I was! I was thinking that I was God, but now I can understand that I am God's eternal servant. Upon gaining such realization, one attains liberation and becomes prasannatma or jolly, for this is the constitutional position of the living entity. There is no lamentation when one is in pure consciousness, for he knows that he is a small part, a spiritual spark protected by the Supreme Lord. Where then is there scope for lamentation? A small child feels free as long as he knows that his father is there. He thinks, my father is standing by me, so I am free. No one can harm me. Similarly, when one surrenders to Krishna, he has complete faith that he is not in danger because Krishna is protecting him. One who is thus surrendered to Krishna is not subject to lamentation or desire, whereas one who is not God conscious simply hankers and laments. He hankers for that which he does not possess, and he laments for that which he did possesses but has lost. A God conscious person is not subject to such misery. If something is lost, he knows that it is God's wish, and he thinks God desired this, so it is all right. He does not desire anything, for he knows that all his necessities are being provided by Krishna, the Supreme Father.
So you can see, are we God conscious or not? Interesting. Are we God conscious or not?
अभी तक तो नहीं हुआ है कैसे हो है
Okay, continue.
As soon as one understands his relationship to God, he realizes universal brotherhood, for he understands that all men and animals, indeed, all life itself, are all parts of the supreme whole and are therefore all equal. Seeing this, one does not envy, exploit, or trouble another living entity. Thus, one who is a devotee of Krishna automatically develops all good qualities, for he is in the proper consciousness. Rao abhaktasya kuto mahadguna mano rathena sati dhavato bahi. One who has developed Krishna consciousness will manifest all the good qualities of the demigods. Indeed, it is stated, Vancha kalpa tarubhyas cha kripa sindhubhya eva cha. A Vaishnava or devotee of Krishna is an ocean of mercy to others.
In this verse, for this verse, when he gives the commentary, so he tells that this very when it is talked that kuto mahad guna hara bhaktasya kuto mahad guna mano prathesanti bhavanto bhayi. In that it tells that it's not just about the qualities of the demigod, because demigod's qualities can be attained even by them who are not bhakta. Bhakta means when Bhaktivinoda Chakravarti Thakur is talking about Shiva means says Kevala Bhakta. So it is talked about the qualities of the God, this Lord Himself. It's not the demigods. Demigods' qualities can be, other person can also become demigod who does not desire pure devotion. They also can become demigods. So it's actually, it's not, this verse is not talked about the demigods. Yes, the qualities of the demigods. In actuality, it is talked about the qualities of the Lord Himself. Those qualities have been passed to the demigods also. So in that sense, it can be considered the good qualities of the demigods.
One should not. He gives the greatest gift to society, for society is in dire need of God consciousness. A Vaishnava bestows the priceless gift of the Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Simply by chanting this mantra, one can remain in a liberated state. One should not think, however, that this state is simply a state of trance whereby one remains seated in lotus position in a corner for days on end. No, liberation means serving. One cannot stop. One cannot simply say, now I have dedicated my life to Krishna. Let me remain seated in Samadhi. The standard of surrender must be maintained by Nisevaya, serving. As one serves the Supreme Lord, the Lord reveals Himself within the heart. The Lord of devotional service to the Lord is executed from morning to night. Indeed, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that one must engage in devotional service to Him 24 hours a day. It is not that we should meditate for 15 minutes and then engage in all kinds of nonsense. The more we serve, the more dedicated to Krishna we become. Therefore, a person should utilize whatever talents he has for Krishna. There are 9 processes of devotional service: hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshipping the deity in the temple, praying, carrying out orders, serving the Lord as friend, and sacrificing everything for Him. And one should always keep engaged in at least one of these 9 processes.
So Prabhupada initially tells that one should utilize whatever talent he has for Krishna. Then he clarifies. Tell me so what? He means in these 9 activities. This is actually the Kevala, because the topic itself started with the Kevalya Bhaktaya, from that. In these 9 activities.
One who is always engaged in Krishna's service never become disgusted. Bhajatam piti purvakam. Service must be rendered with love, but in the beginning this may be difficult, and so one may become disgusted. As one becomes progress in Krishna's service, however, he will find it pleasing. This is indicated by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Yat tadagre visam eva pariname amritopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasada ram. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is like nectar, and which awakens one self-realization is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness.
And from this verse it starts happiness in mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. 37, 38, 36 actually, from 36.
Once one has attained this spiritual platform, it is material service that actually becomes disgusting. For example, if one chants Hare Krishna throughout his life, he will not grow tired of the name. But if one chants a material name over and over, he will soon become disgusted. The more one chants the names of Krishna, the more he becomes attached. Thus, service by Shravanam and Kirtanam, hearing and chanting about Krishna is the beginning. The next process is Maranam, always remembering Krishna. When one is perfect in chanting and hearing, he will always remember Krishna. In this third stage, he becomes the greatest yogi. Nor is progress in Krishna consciousness ever lost. In the material world, if one begins to construct a factory but does not complete it, the factory is useless for all intents and purposes. If the construction is stopped and the building half finished, whatever money is invested is lost. This is not the case with Krishna consciousness. For even if one does not come to the perfectional point, whatever work he does in his is his permanent asset, and he can begin from that point in his next life. Krishna also confirms in Bhagavad Gita that one who begins Krishna consciousness cannot lose anything. Neha Vikramanasasti Pratyavayo. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear.
Baldev Vidyavasan tells that this Niskam Karma Yoga, and because before that Krishna was describing all those things, and again in the 247 he describes Niskam Karma Yoga. So it tells even if someone takes the Niskam Karma Yoga, just small also, he is free of the fear of the samsara. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur clarifies that only. Why Niskam Karma Yoga, just taking Niskam Karma Yoga doesn't makes him fearless. What makes him fearless? The portion of the bhakti. If somebody is doing Niskam Karma but not yoga, it means that not offering it to Krishna, then he will, for him, this verse will not work. So because in every single, even in the Jnana Yoga also, or the Dhyana Yoga also, there are parts of bhakti. In the Dhyana Yoga, they meditate on the form of Krishna. The Jnana Yoga, they chant the holy name. These are the Bhakti Yoga itself. So only the Bhakti Yoga is free of all three modes, means beyond three modes. Only what is beyond three modes can make them fearless. Otherwise, even those things which are in the mode of goodness cannot make them fearless. So those part, the Bhakti part of all those yogas, they make them fearless of all the dangerous types of fear of the samsara. Or sometimes when Prabhupada says that fear of the going to the animalistic life. So both kinds of fear. Because of that bhakti portion, it makes them like this. But in any yoga, either one has taken jnana, yoga, of course, not just the jnana, or dhyana, yoga, karma, yoga, then he is fearless.
In the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna asked about the fate of the unsuccessful yogi, Sri Krishna replies, Partha naiveha namutra vinasastasya vidyate nahi kalyana krit kaschid durgatim tatagachati.
So here it is unsuccessful yogi, not just the bhakti yogi. It is unsuccessful yogi for all those yogis. Of course, different yogis gets different gradations, but they all take birth in some of the transcendentalist family or some rich, wealthy family.
Son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities, does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. Bhagavad Gita 6.40. The Lord then indicates that the unsuccessful yogi takes up his practice of Krishna consciousness in the next life, beginning from the point where he left off. In other words, if one has finished 50% of the process in one life, in the next life he begins at 51%. Whatever material assets we accumulate in our life, however, are all annihilated at death, for we cannot take material opulence with us. However, one should not think that he will do well to wait for the next life to attain Krishna consciousness. We should try to fulfill the mission of Krishna consciousness in this life. Krishna promises us that one who becomes a devotee will come to him without fail. Man manavo madvakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosime. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. The result is that you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend.
You will come to me without fail. When manmana mad bhakto, manmana bhavo mad bhakto. If somebody is not his devotee, is not becoming his devotee, but if he is madhyaji, if he is worshipping him, he is offering obeisance to him, then also he may go to the spiritual world, but he does not come to him. It means that Krishna does not reveal to him like his seva. He will go. He will have this and liberation, even the personal liberation also. But unless one becomes his bhakta, he will not become very dear friend of Krishna. Only those who become bhakta, they only become very dear friend of Krishna. Only they are given like proper like rati, nista, bhava, or only service to the Krishna. Otherwise, they may be given liberation, even the personal liberation also, but they do not become very dear friend of Krishna. Because there are persons who does not become his bhakta, but they worship him, they offer respect to him, all those things. So they do not become very dear friend of Krishna. So for that one has to become devotee of Krishna. Krishna means in Vishnu form, Vishnu Murti also.
When we think of coming to Krishna, we should not think that we will be standing before a void or an impersonal bright light. Krishna God is a person, just as we are persons. Materially, we can understand that our Father is a person, and that his Father is also a person, and that his Father's Father is a person, and so on, back to the Supreme Father, who must also be a person. This is not very difficult to understand, and it is noteworthy that God is called the Supreme Father, not only in the Vedas, but in the Bible, Quran, and other scriptures. The Vedanta Sutra also confirms that the Absolute Truth is the original Father from whom everything has taken birth or emanated. This is also confirmed in the Vedas. Nitya Nityanam Chetana Chetananam Eko Bahunam Yovidadhati Kaman. The Lord is the supreme eternal amongst all eternals and the supreme living entity amongst all living entities. He is maintaining all others. We are turning the world into a materialistic and hellish place. And because we are ignorant of our constitutional will, we have created innumerable problems. Just as in dreams, we create so many problems. But in actuality, there are no problems. I may dream that I am in a great storm, or that I am being pursued, or that someone is taking my money, or that I am being devoured by a tiger. But actually, these are all creations of my mind. Asango hi ayam They simply loved him. Although they were not Vedantis, yogis, or karmis, they were happy because they were simple village girls and boys who wanted to see Krishna. This is a very highly elevated position called Sarvapadi Vinurmuktam Tatparatena Nirmalam, or the stage of purity in which one is liberated from all material designations. Although the yogis and jnanis are trying to understand God, they are not aware of their illusory condition. Maya Sukhaya Bharam Udvahato Vimudhan. They are fools because they are working hard for illusory happiness. There is no question of peace for them. The jnanis or speculators wanting to get relief from the hard work of this material world reject this material world. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. Their position is a little higher than that of the Karmis because the Karmis have taken this material world as everything. They say, here we shall be happy, and the dharma or religion consists of trying to make a peaceful atmosphere within this material world.
So this will come as a short answer question. Karmi's position, so Jnani's position is higher than Karmi's. Why? Because Karmi has taken material world and everything, but at least the Jnanis reject this material world. That is why.
The fools do not know that this has been tried for millions of years, but has never happened and never will happen. How can peace in the material world be possible? When Krishna, the Creator himself says, but this place is meant for trouble and miseries. Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartino Arjuna. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death takes place.
Actually, the Khalya Sastram, it comes in 815, and then in 816, Krishna tells us all these are Abram Bhuvna Loka, to the Brahma Lok, it is the Khalya only. And this is one of the paragraph question, I think. Paragraph question? Yes, paragraph question number 20.
Not only is the world full of suffering, but it is also temporary. One cannot simply agree to go ahead suffering with full miseries and stay here. Even that will not be allowed. In this world, he will not only be punished while staying here, but he will also be kicked out at the end. One may accumulate a large bank balance or an expensive home, a wife, children, and so many amenities. And he may think, I am living very peacefully. But at any day he may be told, please get out.
So please get out, not just in this material world, in the earthly planet, even on the heavenly planet also. When these pious activities ends, he's kicked out from there. Even from the Brahma Loka also. Those who are not the devotee of the Lord, they do not go in the Brahma to the Vaikuntha Loka. They are kicked out from there. That is from everyone, Brahma Bhuvna Loka. So it is like that in the Swarga or Brahma Loka also. Once pious grades get finished, one will be kicked out from there. Okay. So it's like that. But when one goes to Krishna Loka or the Vaikuntha, then it's not the thing there. One is not kicked out there unless one wants to come. There is no question of getting the pious credits and finishing and all those things. It depends on one's desire. Either one wants to come out from the heavenly planets or not. Either his desire is not to come out, still he will be kicked out. But it doesn't happen in the Vaikuntha Loka. Why? He will ask.
Why? He will ask. It is my house and it is paid for. I have money and a job and responsibilities. Why should I get out? Just get out. Don't talk. Get out. On that day, a man sees God. Oh, I did not believe in God, he may think. But now here is God finishing off everything. Thus, it is said that the demoniac recognizes Krishna as death. For it is at that time that he takes everything away from them. Why do we want to see God as death? When the demon Hiranyakashipu saw Krishna, he saw him as death personified, but the devotee Prahlad saw saw him in his personal form as his beloved Lord. Those who challenge God will see him in his ghastly aspect, but those who are devoted to him will see him in his personal form. In any case, everyone will ultimately see God. A person who is honest can always see Krishna everywhere. Krishna says, try to understand me, try to see me everywhere. By way of facilitating this method, the Lord says, Rasoham apsu kaunteya, I am the taste of water. When we are thirsty and need of a glass of water, we can drink it and feel happy. Understand that the power of water to quench our thirst is Krishna. Similarly, as soon as there is a sunrise or moonshine, we can see Krishna, for he says, Prabhasmi Sasi Suryayo, I am the sun and the moon. And at a further stage, we can see Krishna as the life force within everything. As he indicates in the Bhagavad Gita, Punyo Gandha Prithiviyam Cha Tejas Chasmi Vibhavasau Ivanam Sarvabhutaisu Tapaschasmi Tapasvishu. I am the original fragrance of the earth, and I am the light in fire. I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penances of all ascetics. Once we understand that all things are dependent upon Krishna for their existence, there is no possibility of his ever becoming lost to us. Bhagavad Gita, the Lord indicates that all things abide in him in both their beginning and in their end, and also in the interim state. एतद्योनिनि भूतानि सर्वाणि इति उपधारय अहं कृष्णस्य जगता प्रभावः प्रलयस्तथा मत्तः परतरं नान्यत् किञ्चिदस्ति धनञ्जय मयि सर्वम् इदं प्रोतं सूत्रे मणिगणा इव. Of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both its origin and dissolution. O conqueror of wealth, Arjuna, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls on a thread. Krishna is very easily visible, but he is only visible to those who are devoted to him. For those who are envious, foolish, or unintelligent, he obscures himself with his veil of Maya. Naham prakasa sarvasya yoga maya samavrita mudhoyam na vijanati loko mam. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my eternal creative potency, Maya. Thus the deluded world knows me not, who am unborn and infallible. This eternal creative potency, or Yoga Maya, which obscures Krishna to the unintelligent, is dissolved by love. This is the verdict of Brahma Samhita. Premam Janachurita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayesu. One who has developed love for Krishna can see him within his heart 24 hours a day. Those who thus see Krishna are not anxious because they know where they are going at death. One who has taken the gift of Krishna consciousness knows that he will not have to return to this material world to take another body, but that he will go to Krishna. It is not possible to go to Krishna unless one attains a body like Krishna's, a Satchidananda Vigraha body, a body full of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. One cannot enter into fire and not perish unless he himself becomes fire. And similarly, one cannot enter into the spiritual realm in a body that is not spiritual. In a spiritual body, one can dance with Krishna in the rasa dance like the gopis and the cowherd boys. This is not an ordinary dance, but the dance of eternity, the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only those who have become purified in their love for Krishna can participate in it. One therefore should not take this process of Krishna consciousness as something cheap, but as a matchless gift bestowed upon suffering humanity by the Lord Himself. Simply by engaging in this process, all the anxieties and fears of one's life, which in actuality evolve about the fear of death, are allayed. Thus ends the Vedanta purport to the matchless gift. All right, yeah?
No, this is second part. It is given when this book was written. This was lecture given by Prabhupada, like that. The second part is given here, not in this book, but in the Vedas it is given. Based on these lectures, the book was written. Okay, one chapter. Tomorrow should I take class or not? What? No, if I will take class, then I will take the proper 4 hours. Even it will be more than 4 hours also it can be. But class means on the not on the Bhakti Shastri topic, but I will take on the like some accusations are made on Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur and Prabhupada based on the Raganuga and all those things. I don't know, whatever you decide yourself and just let me know.